Hey guys, it's Dr. Wander. So hopefully you can see my screen. I've been getting a lot of questions about the Yale School of Medicine research paper on how they can say that 90% or over 21 million Americans should not be taking thyroid hormone. So hopefully this diagram and this video helps you sort it out a little bit. And then the question I have for you is, why haven't you already been told this before? But anyway, so here's TSH. The majority of you know what that is, thyroid stimulating hormone. And this is made in your pituitary gland inside your brain, your pituitary. And to produce the proper amount of TSH, you need the following microelements. So you need animal protein, not nut protein or beans protein or plant protein or fake protein, but animal protein. This is why sometimes vegans and vegetarians don't do so well because they're not willing to eat animal protein. But who am I to tell someone not to take their case because of their religion doesn't allow for them to eat that, but they just need to know that going in. So animal protein, magnesium, B12, and zinc. So this needs to be done. And then this will tell your thyroid to produce the inactive form of thyroid hormone, which is T4, which the 4 just stands for the number of iodine molecules that are attached to it, okay? Now, it's the inactive form, but to form this, you need vitamin B2 and vitamin C, the proper amounts. Now, then your body must convert T4, which is the inactive form, to the active form, which is T3, which means it only has 3 molecules of iodine, right? However, your liver does 65 to 80% of this conversion. So what does that mean? That means some of you, when you're taking thyroid hormone and your T3 is not where it needs to go, or you still have a bunch of symptoms, it has nothing to do with your thyroid or thyroid hormone because 65% of this conversion happens in the liver. So if your liver enzymes are either too high or too low, that can be something that needs to be fixed. And guess what that doesn't have as a solution? There's no medication that fixes fatty liver. So 65%. You could also have decreased amount of iodine. That's not typical or not a lot of people in the States don't have problems with iodine. Why? Because 50, 60 years ago, there were a lot of people getting goiters. And so what the government did is they iodized salt, which is not necessarily the best thing, but usually iodine is not a problem. If you have low iodine, though, if you eat vegetables and seafood, that typically won't be an issue. You could also have an increased amount of estrogen or really any other type of hormone, but that also can get in the way of this conversion from the inactive T4 to the active T3. Or you could have a decreased amount of bile, like maybe you have a gallbladder problem, or maybe your gallbladder was taken out, or maybe your adrenal glands are all stressed out. You're in what's called adrenal fatigue. Your adrenals sit on top of your kidneys, and they're responsible for the secretion of certain hormones as well as blood sugar regulation. So this is why Yale said that taking the hormone might not be effective. This is one of the reasons why, because this conversion has nothing to do with the thyroid. Now, if your selenium is low, then that could, instead of producing the active form of T3, you could have low T3 and your reverse T3 could be too high. And then the other thing that we need to address is that the active form of, so if everything has gone right up to this point, which typically it's not if you're listening to this video, then this molecule needs to get into the cell. Well, if the cellular door is closed and so maybe you're producing up to this point, the conversion is going good, all of these different steps are working okay, but now the active form of thyroid hormone, which you have plenty of in this, this hypothetical video, if it's not getting into the cell, well, one thing you need is the proper amount of vitamin D and vitamin A, and these are 2 of the vitamins, also E and K, where if you have too much of this vitamin, that can be a problem. So A, D, E, and K, if you have too much, that can be an issue. But let's say you had the right amount and you can't get this hormone into the cell. What might be the main thing that prevents this cellular door from being opened or the molecule getting into the cell are toxins. So they could be environmental toxins, they could be soil, they could be cleaning products, they could be kitchen utensils, they can be food problems that are preventing this cell. So my point of this whole video is that it is way more complicated. Not complicated. There are many more things to address. So if you feel like none of these things are being addressed in your case, this could be the reason why your TSH is normal, but yet you're still having all these symptoms and your body's not functioning properly. So one thing you want to ask yourself is, well, why haven't I been told this already? Or maybe you looked it up on Dr. Google, and hopefully I've done a good enough job explaining to you why, what is actually occurring. Um, Also, if your doctor hasn't gone over this with you, or you haven't had proper testing that will allow us to know kind of where the problem is, because how are we going to give you the proper solution if we don't know where the problem is? So if you have questions, or you're like, hey, yeah, this makes sense to me, I need to get tested, but again, this is only the problem in the thyroid. There could be, you could have leaky gut, you could have food intolerances, you could have other autoimmune issues. Matter of fact, 90 to 97% of you don't even have a thyroid issue. You have an autoimmune disease. So if you're interested in securing what I call a strategy session, or maybe you want to register for my next webinar, or whatever the case may be, but if you have questions and this made sense to you and this point of view kind of cleared a couple of things up, then get in touch with me and I'll be glad to kind of shoot you in the right direction. Okay, that's it for now.